When you wake up in the morning, before the noise of the world begins to pull you in every direction, you have an opportunity, a moment of clarity, to remind yourself of something essential. I am responsible for my life. It sounds simple, almost cliché, but this single statement, when truly understood and acted upon, can transform the way you live. Because responsibility is not just a burden you carry. It is the foundation upon which freedom is built. We live in a time where it's easy, even encouraged, to point to external forces as the reason for our circumstances. The economy, the government, the way you were raised, the mistakes of other people. There's no shortage of places to lay the blame. And while there's truth in the fact that life is unfair, that you didn't choose your starting point, and that luck plays a role, here's the reality: waiting for the world to change before you do is a losing game. You can't control where you begin, but you can decide where you go from here. When you tell yourself, I am responsible for my life, you're not ignoring the hardships or pretending the obstacles don't exist. You're doing something far more powerful. You're declaring that you will not outsource your destiny to anyone else. You will own your decisions, your actions, your reactions. And in doing so, you place the steering wheel firmly in your own hands. The psychological weight of responsibility is heavy. There's no denying that. It means if you fail, you can't hide behind excuses. It means if your life isn't where you want it to be, the primary work of fixing it lies with you. That's a terrifying thought for some, because it removes the comfort of victimhood. But it's also liberating because it removes the helplessness that comes with it. You see, responsibility and empowerment are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. If someone else is responsible for your outcomes, then they also have power over your life. But the moment you accept that you are responsible, you claim that power back. Suddenly, the energy you once spent resenting your circumstances can be redirected into changing them. This mindset also forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about your habits, your mindset, and your priorities. If your health is poor, you look at your choices. If your relationships are fractured, you examine how you've contributed to the dynamic. If your career has stagnated, you evaluate the skills you've neglected to develop. It's not about guilt. It's about awareness. Awareness that puts you in a position to act. And that action begins today. Not tomorrow when things settle down. Not next month when you have more time. Responsibility is not a switch you flip when it's convenient. It's a posture you adopt daily. It shapes how you approach your work, your relationships, your personal growth. It sharpens your focus because you're no longer waiting for the ideal circumstances. You're creating them. There's also a deeply philosophical dimension to this. If you accept full responsibility, then every event in your life, good or bad, becomes raw material for growth. You stop seeing yourself as a passenger and start living as the author of your own story. You begin to understand that meaning in life isn't handed to you. It's forged in the decisions you make and the weight you're willing to carry. And here's the paradox: the more responsibility you take on, the more free you become. Because with responsibility comes choice. With choice comes possibility. And with possibility comes hope. So tomorrow morning, when your feet hit the floor, don't wait for the day to decide how it will treat you. Decide for yourself how you will meet it. Say to yourself with conviction, I am responsible for my life. And then live the next 24 hours in a way that proves you mean it. Because the truth is, no one else is coming to save you. But if you choose it, you don't need saving, you just need to start. Every morning, you have a choice in how you interpret the inevitable difficulties that will come your way. If you expect life to be smooth and frictionless, you set yourself up for frustration, disappointment, and resentment. But if you wake up and remind yourself, My challenges are my greatest teachers. You begin to see the world differently. You stop bracing against hardship as if it's an intruder, and you start meeting it as if it's a mentor. The truth is, we don't grow in comfort. We grow in the friction between where we are and where we want to be. That's where character is forged. Think about the people you admire most. Not for their charm, but for their depth, their strength, their wisdom. Without exception, they've been shaped by experiences that tested them, stripped them down, and forced them to rebuild from the inside out. Those experiences were not pleasant, but they were transformative. When you encounter a problem, your instinct might be to wish it away. That's natural. But the deeper question you should ask is, what is this here to teach me? Maybe the frustration you feel in your job is urging you to develop new skills, or finally take that risk you've been avoiding. Maybe the conflict in your relationship is an invitation to confront old patterns of communication. Maybe the setback you've suffered is pushing you to cultivate resilience you didn't know you had. From a psychological standpoint, reframing challenges as teachers engages a completely different part of your mind. Instead of activating the fear-based fight or flight response, it activates curiosity, problem-solving, and adaptive thinking. This shift doesn't make the challenge any less real. It makes you more capable of meeting it. Philosophically, this mindset ties into the ancient idea that life itself is a school. The Stoics, for example, didn't pray for an easy life. They prayed for the strength to meet the life they were given. They saw every difficulty as a test, not in the sense of a cruel cosmic game, but as an opportunity to demonstrate and refine virtue. Courage, patience, humility, and discipline are not born in comfort. They are called forth in difficulty. Of course, not all challenges feel noble. Some are messy, unfair, and deeply painful. But even these, perhaps especially these, hold potential for growth. It's not that we seek suffering for its own sake, but that when suffering finds us, we choose to engage with it in a way that makes us stronger instead of smaller. This doesn't mean denying your pain. It means refusing to let pain be the final word. When you approach life this way, your entire relationship to adversity changes. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? You stop seeing yourself as a passive recipient of hardship and start seeing yourself as an active participant in transformation. The very thing you once wished would disappear becomes the thing that equips you for the next chapter of your life. There's a saying that smooth seas never made skilled sailors. A calm, predictable life might feel safe, but it will not prepare you for the inevitable storms. Every challenge you face, no matter how small, gives you a chance to practice the qualities you'll need when bigger waves come. So tomorrow, when a problem appears, don't just push it aside or curse its timing. Pause for a moment and consider that it might be the exact lesson you need right now. Let it shape you, sharpen you, teach you. Because the truth is, the hardest moments of your life may one day become the most valuable, if you choose to learn from them. One of the simplest yet most liberating truths you can remind yourself of each morning is this: I will focus on what I can control. It sounds obvious, almost too simple to matter, but most people live as though the opposite were true. They burn endless energy worrying about events, outcomes, and opinions that are completely beyond their influence, while neglecting the small but powerful actions that are fully within their grasp. It's a strange thing. We often mistake rumination for action. We think that by obsessively replaying scenarios in our minds, by analyzing and re-analyzing every possible outcome, we're somehow preparing ourselves. But in reality, we're draining our mental and emotional resources on things we can't change. And every ounce of energy spent on the uncontrollable is energy stolen from what can be changed. From a psychological standpoint, focusing on what you can control centers your sense of agency. It tells your brain, I am not powerless here. This is crucial because the perception of helplessness, whether real or imagined, is one of the most destructive forces in human life. It leads to stagnation, resentment, and despair. But when you ground yourself in the realm of your own influence, you begin to see movement. However small, and movement creates momentum. Philosophically, this echoes an ancient truth. The Stoics divided life into two categories: the things that depend on us and the things that do not. They taught that our peace of mind depends on our ability to focus our attention and effort on the first, and to meet the second with acceptance. This isn't resignation. It's strategic discipline. And here's the paradox. When you stop fixating on what you can't control, you actually become more effective in the world. Why? Because you're no longer scattered and reactive. You're precise. You can put your full energy into actions that actually move the needle. You write the email you've been avoiding. You have the difficult conversation. You train the skill you've been neglecting. You show up where you can make a difference. Instead of exhausting yourself in battles you can't win. It's worth remembering that focusing on what you can control doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means engaging with it from the position of a creator rather than a victim. You still acknowledge that storms exist, but you stop trying to change the weather and start steering the ship. That shift alone can turn a day from overwhelming to manageable, and a life from scattered to purposeful. So tomorrow, when you feel yourself pulled into the gravitational field of worry, frustration, or distraction, pause and ask yourself a single question. Does this depend on me? If the answer is yes, act. If the answer is no, release it. Not because you don't care, but because your care is too valuable to waste where it can't make a difference. Because the quality of your life will never be determined by how much you control. It will be determined by how wisely you choose what to control. Every morning, when you tell yourself, I am capable of more than I realize, you are pushing back against one of the most persistent lies the mind tells. That your current limitations are fixed. That who you are now is the best you can ever be. That's simply not true. Human beings are wired for adaptation. We're built to stretch, to grow, to evolve in response to the demands of life. The problem is, we rarely put ourselves in situations that demand enough from us to discover what we're really capable of. Most people live within a narrow corridor of comfort, repeating the same routines, tackling the same manageable challenges, and quietly assuming that anything beyond their current ability is beyond their reach. But potential is not a static measurement. It's a moving target. And the more you test it, the more it expands. Think back to times in your life when you were forced to rise to an occasion you didn't think you could handle. Maybe it was a crisis, a deadline, or a personal loss. In the moment, you doubted yourself. But afterward, you realized you had more resilience, more resourcefulness, more courage than you ever expected. From a psychological perspective, this is called self-efficacy, the belief in your own ability to meet challenges and accomplish goals. The fascinating thing is that self-efficacy isn't built by sitting around thinking positive thoughts. It's built through action. You do the thing you didn't think you could do, and suddenly your mental map of what's possible expands. The ceiling you once believed in dissolves, and you begin to suspect that many of your limits are illusions. Philosophically, this truth connects to an ancient idea that the human spirit is forged through struggle. The Greeks understood this. They believed that the gods favored those who dared greatly, because daring meant growth, and growth was the essence of a meaningful life. If you believe you're already at your limit, you'll never test yourself. And if you never test yourself, you'll never discover that your limit is much further away than you think. This isn't about reckless ambition or constantly chasing extremes. It's about refusing to live in the small box your fears have built for you. It's about understanding that discomfort is not a sign you're failing. It's often a sign you're on the right path. The muscles of the body grow under stress, and the muscles of the mind are no different. So tomorrow, when you catch yourself hesitating because something feels too hard, too big, or too far beyond your reach, remember this. Capability is not something you find. It's something you build. Every time you take on a challenge that stretches you, you are redrawing the boundaries of your own potential. And perhaps the most important thing to realize is that those boundaries are almost always further out than you think, which means the only real question is, how far are you willing to go to find out? Every morning, it's tempting to rely on a burst of motivation to get us moving. We wake up hoping that inspiration will strike, that will feel like tackling the day's challenges. But here's the hard truth: motivation is unreliable. It's like the weather. It comes and goes, often without warning. If you build your life on motivation alone, you'll move forward only when the conditions feel perfect. And that means progress will be inconsistent at best. That's why the statement, "I will act with discipline," not just motivation, is so important. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel about doing something. It simply requires that you do it. It's the internal structure that holds you steady when emotions fluctuate. Where motivation is about mood, discipline is about commitment. And commitment is what builds the bridge between your goals and your reality. Think of it this way: motivation might get you started, but discipline keeps you going on the days you least feel like it. It's easy to write when inspiration is flowing, but discipline is sitting down to write when the page feels cold and empty. It's easy to train when you're full of energy, but discipline is showing up at the gym when you're tired, busy, or distracted. That's the difference between dabbling in a dream and building something that lasts. From a psychological perspective, discipline rewires your relationship with effort. When you consistently push through resistance, your brain learns that discomfort isn't a threat, it's simply part of the process. Over time, this reduces the mental friction between intention and action, making it easier to follow through regardless of your emotional state. You stop negotiating with yourself and you start trusting yourself. Philosophically, this connects to the idea of virtue as habit. Aristotle argued that we become virtuous by repeatedly choosing the right action until it becomes second nature. In the same way, discipline is not something you wake up with. It's something you cultivate through repetition. You decide over and over to do the thing you said you would do, until the act of doing it becomes part of who you are. The beauty of discipline is that it compounds. Every small disciplined act is like a brick laid in the foundation of your life. One brick might not seem like much, but over months and years, you've built something solid. Something that can withstand the storms, that would topple the fragile structures built on fleeting motivation. So tomorrow, when you're tempted to wait until you feel like it, remember that waiting is a trap. Feelings are fickle, but discipline is dependable. And when you train yourself to act regardless of mood, you gain a quiet, unshakable confidence, the knowledge that you can count on yourself to do what needs to be done. Because in the end, success isn't about doing what's easy when you're inspired. It's about doing what's necessary, especially when you're not. When you wake in the morning and tell yourself, "I will live today with purpose and gratitude," you're setting the tone for the entire day in a way that is both grounding and elevating. Purpose gives your actions direction, while gratitude gives your mind perspective. Together, they create a foundation that keeps you steady in the face of challenges and open to the opportunities that might otherwise pass unnoticed. Purpose is not some grand, abstract mission that you discover once and then live out forever without question. It's something you cultivate daily through the way you choose to act. Even small, seemingly insignificant tasks can be infused with purpose when you connect them to a larger value or aim. If you're building a business, your purpose might be to create something that serves people and sustains your family. If you're raising a child, your purpose might be to help shape a strong, kind, and capable human being. When you keep that purpose in mind, even the repetitive or mundane parts of life become part of a meaningful whole. The danger is that many people drift through their days without a clear sense of why they're doing what they're doing. They get trapped in habit loops, reacting rather than acting, and before long, weeks and years have passed without conscious direction. That's why purpose must be renewed each morning. It's a reminder that today is not just another day to get through. It's a chance to move towards something that matters. Gratitude complements purpose by shifting your attention from what's missing to what's already present. It's not about pretending everything is perfect or denying legitimate struggles. It's about recognizing the good that exists alongside the challenges. This isn't just sentimental advice. There's a deep psychological power in gratitude. Studies have shown that when you deliberately focus on what you're thankful for, your brain's attention system starts to scan for more positive cues in your environment. This doesn't just improve mood, it changes your perception of what's possible. Philosophically, gratitude is a safeguard against the corrosive forces of envy and entitlement. It keeps you from falling into the trap of thinking that your life can only begin once everything is just right. Purpose moves you forward, but gratitude allows you to appreciate the ground you're already standing on. Without gratitude, ambition can become restless and bitter. Without purpose, gratitude can become complacency. Together, they create a balance, a steady push toward the future with a deep appreciation for the present. So tomorrow morning, as you step into the day, ask yourself 2 questions. What am I moving toward? And what am I thankful for right now? Let your answers shape your actions and your attitude. Because the truth is, a life without purpose feels empty, and a life without gratitude feels cold. But when you carry both, you not only live well, you live fully.